about anger in you.
Live and direct, you know, it's your bro Diallo, and it's my show. I hope you appreciated that little musical medley I dropped for you for the first quarter of the first segment of the first show. That was KRS-One, Beef, Boogie Down Production, Beef, What a Relief, When Will This Poisonous Product Cease? And then we had, what was that? Give Me That, Boy! Also Boogie Down Productions. And then we had Love's Gonna Get You, also Boogie Down Productions. And then we had Willie D. Willie D. Not Willie D from BDP, but Willie D from the Ghetto Boys, No Sellout, from the classic album Grip It on That Other Level. I had some things. I had to get some things together. I had to get my life together. So I was a little. I decided to just hit y'all with some tunes from my childhood, from my formative years. Because when I was coming up, that was the horrible music that the old folks was complaining about. And now those same artists are the old folks themselves complaining about other young people's horrible music. So, the things they move in cycles. The way that Bobby Brown used to scamper like Michael. But anyway, let me just say what I'm supposed to say so I can proceed with the show. This is Bro Diallo Show on Q4 Radio. www.que.4.org. You can find us on the TuneIn app, TuneIn Radio, AM 1680, and also on our sister station now. We are broadcasting over the FM signal, WGHC 98.3 FM. So you can go over to 98.3 FM, which give us a broader signal on the FM signal. So check that out if you're in the Chicago area. Let me know what you think. So that's that. Today is September 7th in the year of your Lord, 2018. I don't know what's allowable in the streets. I don't know what's allowed. Oh, I'm totally dead over here. Oh my goodness. Lord have mercy. I have to. At least the music was coming through. My mic was dead. So if you couldn't hear, I said a whole bunch of appropriate stuff about the tuning in Q4 Radio, AM 1680, WGHC. In Chicago, the FM station. You can also find us there. And this is Bro Diallo Show. And today is 9/7/2018 in the year of your Lord. My mic was dead. I couldn't hear myself in the headphones, but until I didn't see the lights pulsating as I was speaking like they're supposed to. That's technical radio language. Don't even try to comprehend it because I'm way above you. I'm way above anything you can see. Anyway, proceeding. Well, people accuse me of having an ego, so I might as well just, ride it on down. Even though egos are not bad. Oh, and can I tell you, they still got, these notes are here. I don't know if I'm doing wrong. Can you see that? These are the words I'm not supposed to say. I almost want to read them to show what I'm a rebel I am. I don't know if they're backwards. Look at that. So those are things I didn't know you couldn't say nigga on the radio. And I'm going to say it. I mean, Paul Mooney said, y'all made up this word. And now and because you don't have access to it, you want to deny our access to it. I think the nigga debate is a stupid debate. Whether or not who can and who can't say nigga or nigger, or what a nigga or nigger is or isn't. I think that's an absurd debate. And it doesn't matter. But, that's something y'all got a lot of time, more time and energy than I possess. So let's just mosey on down the line and talk about what we're here to talk about so y'all can get back to y'all day. and I appreciate y'all being with me. I really, truly, honestly do. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the Eminem uh, Kamikaze album and him dissing all these artists, but I'm not really invested in commercial hip hop, and I know everybody says that. That's kind of like guys like me. Uh, but I've never bought an Eminem album. I've never seen Eminem perform. I have completely divested, black man. I divest from Eminem's very existence. I don't know any of his songs, but it's been impossible to escape him because they've been jamming him down our throat. Even he admitted that it's Elvis, and he said if he was a black artist, he would have sold only a fraction of what he sold, even if his rhymes were twice as good. So, kudos on him. But I remember when when the Source magazine released the racist rap hour, where Eminem, and I can't say this word, the B word, yeah, that's at the top of the list. But Eminem said, "Don't get with an effing black girl because a black girl is an effing white girl. Black girls are bees. White girls are loyal. White girls will stick by your side." Yeah, I remember. And Russell Simmons was the first person to come out to defend Eminem and said that Eminem has grown. Eminem has seen the error of his ways, and Eminem saw that there was money in pandering to black people. He learned that long after Nike learned it, but he learned it eventually. So Eminem had a change of heart and decided to pander to black people as opposed to express his true feelings about black folks coming out of Detroit. But I never let that go. And even the Source magazine, they said was they decapitated Benzino. In fact, was fired as one of the publishers and editors, and everyone associated with that. And they said the sales. Anyway, they went at Eminem, and it almost destroyed, if not had completely destroyed, the Source magazine. And after the Eminem Source magazine beef, the Source magazine got away from, because if you would read the Source magazine in the early '90s, you will find it had a lot of political commentary. They had like homeless people writing for the magazine. They had this one homeless hip hop head guy who was a very, very good writer. And he would talk about the struggles of being homeless and loving hip hop. They had a lot of political commentary, and the reviews, very astute reviews. They were considered very stingy with their album reviews. This was before the term player hater or hater had, saturated, that psyop term had saturated the genre of hip hop. So you were able to give honest and thorough critique of music and artists, their behaviors on and off stage, and no one would call you a hater. They would simply say whether or not your criticisms were accurate, inaccurate, whether they can be supported by evidence or had no evidence to support them. And so there was a time when the Source magazine, I would buy it religiously. And of course, they still had the advertisements, fashion spreads, and a little bit of gossip, but it was a legitimate journalistic paper. Now it's just a advertisement, pure. In fact, when you read media nowadays, when there is advertisement, they have to literally put in the media, "This is an advertisement." They had to tell you which parts of the magazines are advertisement, because if they didn't tell you specifically this is the advertisement versus this is the journalism, you wouldn't know the difference, which is freaking insane. I mean, you can't tell. It's so seamless with because they're always, even when they're writing so-called articles, they don't go off of the artist, and you go back early in the day, the earliest covers, they would cover a lot of underground artists. When Vanilla Ice and other pop culture uh, products, abominations came into hip hop, the Source was quickly to say, "We don't even review that stuff. We don't even mess with that because this is a genuine cultural publication." So people capitalizing off the culture. It was a very good magazine back then. But anyway, they told me about, they did some thorough journalistic coverage, and Eminem had some white nationalist friends whom he left behind in Detroit. Yeah, there's a lot of racism. That's the thing. We can't forget, Malcolm X told us half a century ago, if you south of the Canadian border, you south. Ain't no such thing as, you can't divide up racism by region in the United States. You can define how the racism is expressed, because Chicago is viciously unapologetically, overtly racist city. But you ain't gonna have people coming up chewing on a corn cob, calling you colored with a southern accent and tattered overalls. You know, the racists don't live in trailer parks around here and they don't drive trucks. They drive Priuses. And they have Ivy League educations. And they even have spouses, black spouses, Asian spouses. So the way manifests, you can create regional and cultural differences in how racism or white domination and oppression is expressed. But you can't say, well, the South is more racist than the Northeast and or the Midwest or the West Coast, Best Coast. So anyway, yes, Eminem coming out of Detroit was very racist. He was raised to be a racist, and I think he has greatly benefited from the systems and institutions of global white domination, deference, and privilege. What do we say? We don't say white privilege, but we say white pathology. So anyway, long story short, I never followed Eminem's career. I kept my distance, and I hated to see how all these other artists would gush over Eminem. As far as whether or not he's a good rapper, that's all subjective. It's your opinion. To say he's the greatest rapper ever, you know that ain't got nothing to do with subjectivity. He's the whitest rapper ever. And they had been throwing white darts at the black hip hop dartboard forever. You know, from the Beastie Boys to Vanilla Ice to MC Search and Third Base. And they just kept throwing them until one stuck. So they finally hit gold. Thank you, Dr. Dre. And so they finally hit pay dirt. They finally got their hip hop Elvis. You know, Eric Clapton was the blues, is the #1 blues guitarist, and I mean, it just goes down. I can't even recount that history. Go read you some Dale Jones, the war correspondent. Read Culture Bandits Volume 1, Culture Bandits Volume 2, Culture Bandits Volume 3, and Culture Bandits Volume 4, Sex Prisoner. He ran it all down. Shout out to Dale Jones. And thank you for your contributions to the culture. In fact, reading Dale Jones' first Volume 1 of Culture Bandits is where I first heard of Fela Kuti. I'd never heard of him before until reading that. And so he's helped me a lot to re-excavate African culture and African cultural treasures. He talked about Gil Scott too, but I had known about Gil Scott. My dad was a blues and jazz man, so I was up on blues and jazz, not so much up on the African conscious music. Anyway, Eminem came out with Kamikaze, and he dissed a bunch of rappers. He called out Hopspin, and Hopspin put a video out saying that Eminem knows my name. He's like a schoolgirl with a crush. He said, Eminem knows my name. I can't believe he called my name. And then Hopsin said, I need to call my mother. I have to call my mother and let her know that Eminem said my name on the record. And then he dropped to the floor and rolled over on his back like a content puppy. Look it up. Do y'all need me to share the link, or y'all gonna take my word for it? Now, you may not know who Hopsin is. If you're over 30, if you're over 40, hell, if you over, if you over on the black side of the fence and you don't hang around, angsty white people, you're not gonna know who Hopsin is. But Hopsin is a lyricist rapper. He actually was on NWA old label. Eric Easy Wright was about to sign him just before he died. And so then he started working with Eazy-E's widow in order to get put on. And the reason I'm saying this is because he came out with this song. Let me see if this word is on the list. Yes, the A word. A butthole. I guess I can say butthole, but he used the A-hole word. He said that he has a song called I sag my pants because I'm a A-hole or something. No, I sag my pants to let my A show because I'm a A-hole. And he disses everyone. He disses every rapper you can imagine. Every black rapper. Lil Wayne and all of the hot rappers from just a decade ago. He just disses and goes in on everybody. But when Eminem calls his name, he collapsed on the floor like a puppy. And then I don't know if y'all know about Michael Rappaport. Michael Rappaport is another person who's been accused of cultural appropriation. Now, I am in a different school of thought. I don't consider when white people act quote unquote ghetto, when white people act in belligerent and ignorant ways, I don't consider them appropriating their culture. I think when black people are acting quote unquote ghetto, they're appropriating Western culture. But it's not really appropriation of a culture, because when a culture has been imposed on you against your will, when you've been forcibly inserted into a culture against your will, and when your people's many attempts to separate, exit, and escape that culture have been thwarted, that's not appropriation. But it's something. We need a new vocabulary. But when black people, ghetto, the first slums, the first ghettos, the first institutionalization of ignorance and violence, living in filth and squalor, that's straight out of Europe. The first ghettos came out of Europe. The first slums, the first hoods came out of Europe. And the very institutionalizing being subhuman behavior, antisocial behavior being celebrated, being seen as something that is to be passed on through generations. That's a European behavior. Not carrying yourself with an appropriate level of dignity, not having an appropriate level of respect for other people's personal space and their property is European behavior. It is consistent European behavioral traits. Now we understood, we figured out when white folks was telling us, having us locked here, not allowing us to speak our native languages, not allowing us to commune with our homeland, we had to take their word for what they told us about Africa. And they said Africans are lazy. They said Africans are cannibal. They said Africans are brutes. And then we figured out everything they told us about ourselves negatively, everything they told us about Africa negatively, was actually them projecting their behaviors onto us. They were the cannibals. They were the brutes. They were so damn lazy that they went all the way all over the world to gather slaves to do their work for them. So we figured out, wait, the stuff you tell us about ourselves, you want us to believe about ourselves, are actually true about you. We figured it out. But now, that wisdom we figured out generations ago, and now we've lost it. Now we walk around, I'm so ghetto. And then we get mad when white girl gets on YouTube and say, oh, I like to put, hot cheese on my nachos. I'm so ghetto. And we get mad when a white girl refers to herself as ghetto. That's their word. That's their concept. That's their condition. In fact, if I say, name a ghetto created by black people, you couldn't name one. I don't care if you go to the slums of Accra in Ghana. I don't care if you go to the slums of Lagos, Nigeria. You go to the favelas of Brazil, or you come to the hoods on the south side of Chicago. None of those living conditions, none of those economic conditions were created by black people. They were imposed on us. Every ghetto that I can identify, every slum, every hood that I identify was planned, constructed, and sustained by white people. And all of the dysfunctional behavior, the maladaptive behavior, the degenerate behavior bred up from that came from white people. The only type of behavior born of the ghetto that I can attribute to black people is resistance behavior. And you'll notice the maladaptive behavior is nurtured. The resistance behavior is crushed. You got gang culture, it's allowed to flourish. You got revolutionary culture, they come with COINTELPRO. But now, so it frustrates me to find black people fighting for the word, fighting for the identity, fighting for the culture, fighting for the concept of ghetto, thinking that is black people. And got the gall to say when white folks act ghetto, they're appropriating black culture. I mean, we are not just backwards. We twisted, flipped, we smack, flipped, and rubbed down. We all looking in the wrong direction. And in fact, when I see our oppressors acting civil, when I see them practicing good hygiene, when I see them being articulate, scholarly, scholarly. That's when I'm like, they're appropriating African culture. We ain't figured it out. What can I have? Let me have this delusion. I ain't got God, Jesus, or the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus. Let me have the delusion that we figured some stuff out, sis. God, I miss new. And people always corrected me. Sometimes, I like to toy around with willful ignorance. I see it practiced. It must be some benefit. But let me get back to Eminem. Michael Rappaport is a white boy. I'm sorry to go down that rabbit hole. Who makes videos, and he acts in ways. He acts very ghetto. He even at times he slurs his speech. And he was in a movie a long time ago called Zebrahead, which was a hip hop movie with him and a black girl. I never saw it, but it was hot fire early 90s. When I first moved to New York, it was hot fire in the streets of New York. New York was weird back then. It was still black, but still weird to me. I didn't know no better. But anyway, this dude gets on there and gets on the internet, has a lot of followers, and said, I can't believe none of y'all are responding to Eminem's diss. All these rappers Eminem called out. Because remember, there was another song by Kendrick Lamar. I don't remember the name of it. But he said he was the king of New York, and he said he was the king of the East and West Coast, and he juggles them both. Control. Yes, control. And in under 24 hours after Kendrick Lamar said he was the king of New York, he didn't say nobody's name. He said, I'm the king of the East and West Coast. I juggle both coasts in one hand. There was a response tracks. Funkmaster Flex was banging response tracks. I was in New York when that Control song came out. I was driving through New York, headed back to Chicago. And Funkmaster Flex was playing all the response tracks. And Funkmaster Flex was screaming about how quickly, in under 24 hours, people responded. Let me play you this hop spin, because this is an example. I don't know if he's cussing. If he's cussing, I'm going to have to cut it off, because they're getting strict about the language on this thing. But peep this coonery right here.
Yo, craziest shit just fucking happened.
Oh, I can't play it. I'll share the link. He's ghetto. In the truer sense, in the more appropriate sense of the word. He's ghetto. He acts like an uncultured, disgusting white person. But Eminem goes at a lot of rappers. Every rapper he feels that has slighted him. Apparently, Joe Budden has finally responded in over 24 hours. But the one rapper to stand up like a man to go at Eminem's chest, because he dissed Ja Rule. He dissed everybody from his era. I never heard the song. I've just been reading the various articles about the song. But he goes at Ja Rule, and you know Ja Rule is famous. People know more about his beef than anything else. And LeBron James, your Lord and Savior LeBron James. Because, Lord Jamal, punks jump up and get beat down. Brand Nubian, white devil, killer, Lord Jamal, said that Eminem was a guest in hip-hop culture. He wasn't a resident. So he went at Lord Jamal. He went at everybody. And bottom line is, most black people responded by, oh, I feel so privileged to come under Eminem's radar. One white boy, this white dude, Machine Gun Kelly, because after Eminem's success, every rap mogul went out and got them a pet white rapper. Hell, even Lil Boosie, or now Lil Boosie is Bupac. Lil Boosie said black people are the worst type of people in the world. He said white people ain't the ones hiding in the bushes waiting to rob and carjack you. It's the black people. Remember that Lil Boosie, y'all forgive him, Mr. All Lives Matter, Lil Boosie, Bupac, who y'all wanted to free Lil Boosie. This degenerate scumbag, and then his little daughter, who was 5, 6 years old, on the internet cursing and acting ghetto. That little Boosie Bupac, he's now trying to put another white rapper on us. And anyway, Puff Daddy, of course, was like, well, I want to get $1 billion off a rapper like Dr. Dre. So he went out and got this rapper called Machine Gun Kelly. And Machine Gun Kelly is the only rapper up to this point that I know of. And I heard Joe Budden yesterday came back at him. The bottom line is, hip hop is no different than all other aspects, all other areas of human interactions: entertainment, labor, politics, sex, war, economics, and all other areas of human relations. It's a plantation. These black people are scared of white people. They're in awe of white people. And I don't shame black people for being scared of white people. They're shoot. White people should be scared of white people. The concept of whiteness. And let me tell you something. Y'all make bombs. Y'all work your own children to death in factories and sweatshops. It kind of blows my mind. And nobody can explain it because it's not appropriate. Nobody can study you. Nobody can get into the recesses of your mind. No anthropologist can go and excavate a skyscraper or go to a nuclear power plant and excavate and do studies like y'all go to Africa and Asia and look at people's behavior and like, ooh, it's like that show where that guy committed suicide. And he used to go to all these exotic places and like, look at these exotic people and their exotic foods. Nobody can go to Walmart and say, look at these exotic people and their, processed nitrate infused exotic food. And I think it would help for their own sake. But anyway, I'm scared of y'all too. It's not the kind of crippling fear. It's the kind of fear of shock. Like you walk into your room and you see a mouse, like, whoa, it's disturbing. It's not the kind of fear, I know I'm better, bigger, stronger than the mouse, but still, it's an unsettling. It's got no business being there. And I have to see how I can get it out of there. It's that kind of fear. That uneasiness. But anyway, all these gangster rappers, killers, punk, hustlers, killers, shotters, gangsters, all got punked out by this old, aging, irrelevant. He came to our culture and colonized. He colonized our culture, excavated all the resources from our culture, and now he's a civil. He talked about cutting off his mother's arm with a chainsaw and beating her to death. Talk about having dreams about raping his mother. Didn't he say something about taking his daughter and shoving his 5-year-old daughter back up her mother's vagina? Saying stuff like that, and y'all danced to it. And now he's back. But I think we should pay attention to that. So now there's the next time a black rapper comes out and disses everybody and their mama. See how quickly and how viciously he's responded to. Even Kendrick Lamar, who is the darling of hip-hop right now. He's the golden boy of hip-hop. And he go back and look at that control thing, where he didn't even say anybody's name. He just said, I'm the king of New York. And he's from California, and he said he's the king of New York. And all these rappers who let Europeans come and gentrify the hood, Harlem, Brownsville, it's Brown, I've been in Chicago, Brownsville, East New York, Bushwick, Marcy, all the areas, black areas, y'all let them come take y'all and run y'all off. They sipping lattes and walking little poodle dogs up and down your block. Flatbush, Church Ave. They let you come and then you let all these other people come to your community, set up bodegas, set up markets, and do all that. And you don't do nothing. All you gangsters, hustlers, killers, players, pimps, didn't do nothing. But Kendrick Lamar on the record said, I'm the king of New York. Like that. People are like, oh, your New York, your travel pass, they was on it. Under 24 hours, they were fully produced rap. Dudes literally fell out of their bed and fell on top of a studio and put out a track in under 24 hours. Look at the response from Eminem. Who cares about the rap music? It doesn't matter. This isn't how these alpha males, these black macho machismo black men behave in hip hop. They act this way in business. They act this way in politics, in diplomacy. They behave this way in religions. The black man is still acting like a second-class citizen in Islam, when it's more African Muslims than Arab Muslims, when Senegal is more Islamic than Mecca and Medina. And they still act like a guest, like they got to speak Arabic, and that's the true language. They say Islam is not is a black man's religion, but everything goes back to an alien culture. They still letting Arab Muslims and Persian Muslims enslave Africans. So it's not hip hop is just a way to look at this on a more pedestrian level. You ain't gotta do no research. You ain't gotta do no history. You ain't gotta understand geopolitics. But what's happening in hip hop, where Eminem can come out and call out the greats, even call out the 5%er MCs. Now, there's some MCs, I guess he know better. He didn't call out none of the MCs I know. Because I know the MCs I know personally and the MCs I listen to. The MCs I'm trying to put a nickel in their pocket. Because I know it ain't going on no blood diamonds and Bugattis. I'm happy to spend money with these MCs, to see them perform or to purchase their music. I know it's being recycled amongst the people, but he didn't go at none of them. But for the commercial rappers, the you know, where that at? And then they took another white boy to come at Eminem's neck, and then black people want to act like the beef is irrelevant, and it is irrelevant in the hip hop arena, but it's very relevant in the cultural, ideological, and historical arena. It's very relevant. Eminem shouldn't have made it this far. And Jay-Z, Mr. It's hard not to kill niggas. It's like a full-time job not to kill niggas. They said Eminem murdered him on his own track. Eminem went at Jay-Z on a track that him and Jay-Z, when Jay-Z paid him to come rap on one of Jay-Z's albums. Nas said it. I didn't say it. Get it, Nas. If it's not true, talk to Nas. He said Eminem murdered you on your own track. You a blank riding blank. You love the attention. Queens niggas run you. Ask Russell Simmons. Go listen to Ether. Go listen to Ether. But Nas also said the best are supposed to clash at the top. So it's okay. Because when you're at the top, the best got to go at each other. I don't know where that came from. I don't agree with it. But whatever. That's the rules they live by. Why ain't nobody went at Eminem's neck? Oh, there are some rappers that went at Eminem, like Can I Bust? And Can I Bust is lost his damn mind. He's out of here. Psyop. I don't know. Can I Bust is always a piece of crap. I hate cannabis. The only thing on cannabis, I like that second round knockout he did against LL Cool J. That's all I got to say for him. But like I said, Benzino, he's a reality show star now, but he used to be a serious hip hop journalist. He didn't even go at Eminem. He just said, this is who Eminem truly is, in his own words and his own writings. This is who Eminem is. But black people, I don't know. I guess, man. It's just, it kind of hits me because, you know, just, I'm from the hip hop generation. I came up on hip hop. You know, it's the first genre of music I really spoke to me. But anyway, moving on. I want to say something about from my own personal experience. Because I just was talking to my wife. And I was just recounting this experience. One of the things that really informed me about superior beings, about higher beings, people with aligned chakras and higher vibrations. Let me just give you a little historical thing to kind of tell you how my image of this whole concept of being uppity, being superior, being spiritual, and spirituality somehow elevating you. My junior year in high school, I was working as a block brother. And as a block brother, which I felt so privileged to have this job, because basically, only thing, if they basically paid you to organize the youth in your community. You could organize games and tutoring and field trips, and they would give you a modest budget to go out and basically enrich the lives of people in your own community. And I thought this was an unbelievable program and an unbelievable, unprecedented opportunity. Because before, what they would do is people from outside the community would come into the community and do those same services and charities for the black community, black underprivileged youth, like LeBron James, living in Beverly Hills, but he's helping black kids in Cleveland, Ohio. And Lord, I can't touch that. That's a third wire of blackness. You know, I'm about to lose my black card. Talking about LeBron, Lord and Savior, King James version of of academia. But anyway, what they did, what this brother went off to college. He was a athlete, so you know everybody loved him. He was a star athlete from the city. He went off on a scholarship, football scholarship, and he decided, he was. I wouldn't say he wasn't revolutionary, but he was definitely socially conscious, but more of a liberal. And when he got out of college, he came back to town, football hero, he was a star. And some people were like, so what are you going to do now? And he said, I want to do something positive in my community. So they were like, fine, what do you want to do positive in the community? And he came up with this concept called the Block Brothers. And Kansas City, Missouri was supposed to be the laboratory. And if this thing worked, they would take it national. And instead of bringing people into the community to help the community, they would find individuals in the community who could help the community, and they say find the people in the community and give them resources, as opposed to giving people the community resources or paying somebody from outside of the community to go into the community and help them. So John Brooks literally took a briefcase and went around the hood, went around to inner city schools, neighborhood meetings, boys and girls clubs, just went around saying, who are the exceptional young people in your community? Who are the young people making things happen, that are protesting, that are fighting, that are changing? And my name came up. I never heard of this guy. Yeah, his name was John Brooks. He's a minister now, I think. At least the last I heard, he was a man of the cloth now, I guess. But anyway, he found me. And somebody was like, do you know this kid named Diallo? Like, no, never heard of him. And so they were like, well, Diallo, he's always talking black stuff and trying to make noise and fighting against the landlord, talking against the housing management and talking against the police and talking against it. He's just, but, I think his heart is in the right place. He's the kind of guy you're looking for, like active and protesting and all that stuff. So they called, and he called me and was like, yeah, I want you to come. And I'm like, I ain't coming nowhere because I'm too black to be in some office, and I'm black and I'm black and I'm black. And he's like, the job pays $8.50 an hour. And I'm like, why didn't you say so? So I said, I'll hear you out. For $8.50 an hour, this is like, what, 89, 90, 91, 92? Shoot, that was real money. So I went and talked to John Brooks. And John Brooks told me of this program, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know this kind of stuff was even possible. Hell yeah, I'll be a block brother. So anyway, they were like, here's some money, here's some school supplies, here's some board games and basketballs and footballs, here's everything you need. Go into your neighborhood and make positive stuff happen. So I immediately started a tutoring service, after school services. So the single mothers would have a little extra time when their kids come. The kids could literally come to my house, and I do schoolwork with them. I'll do history lessons, and then we would go out and do physical activities. I would go to, it was called Back to the Land, the health food, and I would get them various health food, granola and stuff, and talk to them about proper nutrition and the toxins and dangers in the food. And then I organized trips out of the housing projects, and I take them on hay rides, and there was I got them a 7-week lesson on horseback, tending to horses and riding horses, so they would learn to shoe the horses and clean the horses and feed the horses and clean the stables and ride the horses. Just something that, I was always interested in. Took them ice skating and just basically trying to give them a wider perspective. And I was all in the newspaper and on public television interviewing me. Like, look at all this great stuff this great young black man is doing. All right? So that's the scenario. So from the Block Brothers, my senior year, I was asked to come and be a counselor at this camp. And they was like, well, let's try to concentrate this. Now, at the time, I'm like 16, 17 years old. And I, with all that black stuff, reading Kwame Ture and listening to Boogie Down Productions and X-Clan and Public Enemy, with all that set aside, I was still a 16-year-old young man. And when they sent me to this camp, I'm like, I'm out. We were down in North Tennessee, South Missouri, on the border of Tennessee and Missouri. We got a big lake, all this land, these cabins and these canoes and these tubes and these speedboats and these they had these giant tree obstacle courses way up in the trees. And I was there wilding out, having a good time. And they had the boys on one side of the campgrounds and the girls on the other side of the campgrounds, and we sneaking back and forth. And we were doing talent shows at night, and we get up and I'd be on the stage gyrating, doing my little corny hip hop dancing. I was wild. I was having my fun, and I'm like, pretty soon I'm going off to college. So, I want to enjoy myself. And, I get a damn near half the summer, I ain't got to be in East Hills Village where y'all was shooting and wilding out. So I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this time. And I had a friend who was also there, who was also a block brother. And while he was there, he was being very pious. He was being very reserved. And like I said, we were out in the woods. At night you could see the stars you could look into the center of the galaxy. There were no street lights. You didn't hear car horns. There was like a couple of trucks that would come on the land, but they dropped us off on a big bus and left. And we saw them, and there was a couple of old rickety trucks on the land. Other than that, you had to walk everywhere. Wasn't no paved roads. This was in the wilderness. And you were cold, you had to build a campfire. Wasn't no central heating. You were hot, wasn't no AC. You had to jump in the lake. We was in the woods. And we was out there having fun. They brought all these kids from this inner city to the middle of the woods, and we were really enjoying ourselves. But I had a homeboy who was there. And I'd see him coming and going. And there was a library there, and he'd be sitting quietly in the library reading. And while we were all at the basketball court, cussing and yelling and punching and acting fool, being loud in the woods with no oversight, he'd be off to the side silently reading a book. And then while we were on the tubes, we'd be on those, they had these tubes. They hooked these giant inner tubes to a back of a speedboat, and there were two rubber handles. And they would drive the speedboat trying to throw you off the tube, and you'd be hitting these big waves, going 10, 15, 20 feet in the air, trying to damn near kill yourself. And all of us was from the hood, couldn't none of us swim. And we out there in the middle of this big-ass lake. And he'd be sitting on the side, or maybe wading in the water, reading, or silently looking into the distance and reflecting. And after the first week, I'm like, man, my homie here, he's taking true advantage of this time. We're about to go off to college, and he's taking this time in the woods to commune with nature, to recenter himself and his chakra. And he was always a spiritual dude. He used to be into the Asar set, then he joined the Bahami temple. He was always a spiritual dude. He was always a dude looking for the into metaphysics and reading the what you call those things, the Torah cards or whatever. I don't remember. A lot of mumbo jumbo. And he had these different tinctures and herbs and incense that would help him to meditate and to reach his higher self. And I'm like, man, you know what? I felt bad. Because I'm like, my whole philosophy of the summer is to wild out, get out all this young energy, because I have to be responsible for myself. I'm going to have to be going to campus. I'm going to be working, and it's going to be an intense program that I got into 2 years. I got to do basically a 4-year degree in 2 years with full summers on. And I'm like, and this is a commitment, and I'm going to do this and take advantage of this opportunity. So I just wanted to get all this nonsense, youthful indiscretions out of the way. But homie was being spiritual. And I felt really bad. And I come to him and be like, yo, they having another talent show. He'd be like, I'm just going to sit here. I'm good. I'm in a good space, bro. You go ahead. I'm like, you sure you don't want to come? And so then the second week, I started trying to be spiritual. I tried to just sit quietly and commune with nature and look in the distance while all these girls running around and Daisy. That's when, look at these girls in the Daisy Duke song. That's when that Daisy Duke song and Luke, pop that booty. That stuff was hot. So every girl down there was in little bitty bikinis, little bit of nothing. All these teenage girls, teenage boys. It was a mess. Hot ghetto mess. And I'm like, I'm going over here with my dog. Because, we only got a couple more weeks, and I'm going to really get to know Bro Diallo. And I'm going to find out who Bro Diallo is on the inside and out. It didn't last a full day. I'm like, I can't sit here staring. And I promise you, for years, even after I went off to college, and for years I was like, man, I missed out on a great opportunity, and this spiritual brother showed me the way, and who knows, I should have been spiritual. Maybe I wouldn't be this heartless, rational atheist if I had taken advantage. And let me tell you, after years, I knew this dude for years. He comes to me And I was like, man, I remember, when we were at that campsite and you were being quiet, you were being reserved, you were reading every day. I saw you reading. I did read one book over that trip. I read I read Before the Mayflower. That's a book I brought with me. Like, I'm going to finish this book before college. One of my favorite books of all time. I wish I had the original copy. I got into a fist fight and got put in timeout, like grown men timeout. They wouldn't make me sit in the library. I got into a fist fight. Well, this dude hit me first. Because he said, I didn't know down south cats. I thought they talk slow and they're real reserved. So I took that for being passive. I didn't know southern dudes love to fist fight like that. And, it was my first time spending any extended time in the South. Anyway, I even got into a fist fight, which really, really upset Mr. Brooks. And it's like, you're embarrassing us. We supposed to come down here with our best and brightest youth, and you down here. I'm like, my bad. Still didn't stop. Anyway, moving, progressing. There's a moral to the story. And so years later, I've always thought, after that, when I was in college, about how I didn't have the discipline and self-control. And I admired his discipline and self-control. And I thought he was better than me because he was spiritual. He was able to control himself even though there were temptations all around him, blah, blah, blah. And so I brought this up to him to try to give him a compliment. He had finished his degree in accounting and finance. He had a child. And, we had grown up a little bit. I hadn't had his child is much older than mine, but I hadn't had kids yet, But we had kind of calmed down, junior, seniors in college versus our junior, senior year in high school. And I said, man, I always admired you. And he's one of the first guys after me that I knew. He was one of the only other vegans I ever knew. Because I went vegan, and then shortly after I went vegan, he went vegan. So we were like vegan together. And we went in half on a Jack LaLanne juicer and was juicing spiritual level. And you know what he told me? He's like, man, I wasn't being righteous and spiritual. He said, man, the night before I left for camp, I went to my girlfriend's house. And I told her, I'm going to camp. I'm my nice self, never see you again. Please, let's have sex. She said, I don't want to have sex. And she was like, please, baby, please. So she said, fine, we can have sex because you're leaving for camp. And I don't want you to forget me or hook up with another girl when you get there. And he said, I had every intention on hooking up with girls when I got to camp. But I just figured going away for a month, for the end of the summer, would be a good reason because I'd been after this girl for months. They were both on the track team together. I'd been after her for months. And she would always turn me down. She let me get a little kissy, touchy, but never go all the way. She let me go all the way. And then the night I went all the way, I drove home, got my duffel bag, and met y'all at the Boys and Girls Club when we went off to camp. And he said 3 days after being at the camp, I wake up and there's blood in my sheets, blood speckles. And long story short, the dude I know this is a moral to the story. He had crabs. He had gotten for his girlfriend the night before he left for camp. So he was depressed. He was scared, and he didn't know, never had any type of venereal, nothing. So he didn't know what the hell to do. So he said, I was just catatonic. I wasn't spiritual. He said, I would just stare at the book and hold the book up to my face because I'd be crying a lot, and I didn't want people to see my eyes all whelped and teary. He said, when I'd be sitting there at the edge of the water, I'd be scared to get in the water because I didn't know if that would feed them or make them grow. I didn't know, so I just sat at the edge of the water. I wanted to get on the boats. I wanted to do the talent show. I wanted to chase after the girls in the Daisy Duke short. I wanted to jump in that fight. But I was scared somebody probably could have ripped my shorts and the crabs would have jumped out. I didn't know. I wanted to jump that dude that hit you in the face and knocked you over the baseball bench. I wanted to wild out. It was my last summer before, well, actually, he was the year before me, but it was the summer before my senior year, because I was a senior, he was a junior. So the moral of the story is, just because you look at somebody projecting a certain thing and has something projecting, don't make assumptions about what people are on the inside, especially these spiritual, righteous, holier than thou, pious people. And I was like, man, I'm walking around all these years thinking, damn, how come I don't have that level of discipline? How come I can't be that righteous brother? And he's not to say, but to me that has always stuck with me. Whenever I see a Dr. Umar out here telling you about the black woman is bringing down a black family, and then his mess comes out, it's always mess. And I always find that the moralists tend to be the messiest. So I think that we as a community should stop with this morality thing, and we need to move over to rationality. We need to set up conscious, deliberate agendas and execute those agendas and evaluate those agendas based on. But having this being more righteousness and in terms of execution and holding to an obligation, holding to a commitment is good. Righteousness in terms of being puritanical, that's Western nonsense. And that occurrence, I was an agnostic at that time. I was a doubter at that time. But from that time, and I'm like, man, people are so full of, and I got so many examples of that. Every time something looks so good and clean and pristine on the surface, it's garbage. And what provokes a lot of people, you get an auntie who all of a sudden, she loved Jesus and she's at church every Sunday. She got a letter from the IRS because she was claiming kids she had no business claiming. She was claiming you and didn't tell your mama. And then they get into God. Most of these people, they get into righteousness. You take from that story, somebody like, where am I going with this? Listen, hey, you take from that what you get. To me, it was informative, very informative to me. But I guess maybe you had to be there. Got some other things. So what I want to talk about, I had called today's show is capitalizing off castration. And I put Nike capitalizing off of castration. And YouTube wouldn't allow me to put Nike in the title. So I had to go back and take Nike out of the title and put in just capitalizing off castration. It ain't no biggie. It ain't no Biggie Smalls, because guess what? Nike ain't the only ones to do it. They're one of the best that ever did it. But they weren't the only ones to do it. So, that's something y'all should think about. Castration. I gotta fix that. It's supposed to be capitalizing off castration. Or off of castration. But before we talk about that, Jason Van Dyke, the police officer here in Chicago who shot LaQuinn McDonald 16 times. This is the police officer that brought down one of the most powerful political operatives, not just in Chicago, not just in the Democratic Party, but one of the most powerful political operatives in the entire country, Ryanist IDF Emanuel. Because at the same time he's going up for election, the LaQuinn McDonald, the only reason Rahm Emanuel got reelected is because the tape of the shooting of LaQuinn McDonald, where LaQuinn McDonald was shot 16 times, a mentally disturbed, homeless, off and on homeless young black man was slaughtered in the street, and it was on video. And they said that this young man lunged at him with a knife. When the video was released, it saw that he was, not only did he had a small little pen knife, the kind of knife you use to clean the grime out from under your fingernails. He was moving not just away from the cops, but he was rapidly moving away from the cops at an angle. And even if he had a machete, he was absolutely no threat to any of the policemen there, because he was not in proximity to use it, and nor was he holding it in a threatening manner, nor was he moving towards the police. But Jason Van Dyke wanted to do a thrill kill, and Jason Van Dyke has been on the police department for a number of years, and he knew that the Chicago PD and the NY, the whole, to quote E-Rock, the whole MF and PD know that they can kill black people with impunity, with very little oversight, and not only do they not get consequences, they get promotions. And not only that, all of these killer cops become folk heroes in the white community. They get invited to the cookouts, the casserole cookouts. They get speaking engagements. They go on tour. They go to Israel and do workshops on anti-terrorism workshops, killing a black youth. And if black people make out of it, you can really make a name off of for yourself. You're the modern day Christopher Columbus. That's something we don't look into, because after the trial and the media and the protest, we don't look at what happened. Go all the way back. The cops that beat Rodney King, that Stacey Coon, he made more money after he beat and was convicted for brutalizing Rodney King than he ever made as a cop. He became like a security and consultant. And these corporations all over the world were paying him money saying, how do we beat the hell out of our subordinates and get away with it, do it right? Made big money. And the guy who was the cop? Mark Furman, who admitted on tape, it's like, yeah, I go up to black people and they give me an ID and I cut it up. And I take them in. I go up and I frame black people all the time. He was the main detective, lead detective on the OJ case. They had a detective. That's one of the reasons OJ got off. But Mark Furman went on to become a celebrity. And it ain't just local cops. Look at Oliver North, a goddamn felon, criminal. He's one of the most beloved people in conservative. I mean, he made big money. I can't even get enough money to sustain my operation, let alone take home some take-home money in my pocket. This dude's getting multi-million dollars with radio, television, spots, consulting, writing contracts. Before the book even, he put a letter, tens of dollars. So Jason Van Dyke, I know he's like, yo, what's the dealio? Why are we doing this? It was just the wrong time. It wasn't that you killed a black man. It's just your timing was off. The timing was way off. So, Jason Van Dyke slaughtered this man. But this is something we missed. There were dozens of officers standing around, and every single one of those police officers corroborated his lie. Those black cops standing there shoulder to shoulder with Jason Van Dyke said, yes, he lunged at Jason Van Dyke. Jason Van Dyke not only saved his life of every officer standing around, and they wrote this down. They perjured themselves. They demonstrated that there is a culture of corruption, that the police perjure themselves with impunity in the city of Chicago, but we already knew this. We already knew this. But anyway, Jason Van Dyke went to jail. He made bail. He's going to trial. He's going to get a slap on the wrist, I'm predicting, but he brought down a political dynasty in Chicago. Take what you're getting. But he was told as part of his release, because this is such a high-profile case, Officer Van Dyke, you are under a gag order. You cannot speak to the media. Not about this case or anything else. You are on a judicial gag order. If you violate this gag order, you will have your parole, your bail will be revoked, and you will be remanded to the custody of the Cook County Corrections, and you will spend the rest of your time in jail while you go await and go through trial. Do you understand this, Officer Van Dyke? Officer Van Dyke said, I absolutely do understand this. And Officer Van Dyke signed the paper stating that he would obey the terms of his release. And so now we're coming up on the trial, and Officer Van Dyke gives a written and videotaped interview to the Chicago Sun-Times, saying, I'm a good family man. I've been railroaded. The courts aren't being fair to me. And they were like, yo, what the blood clot did we tell you? So they rearrest Van Dyke yesterday for violating the terms of the court. He's a lawman. He should know better. And guess what? He got out on a $200 bond. Now this is a murderer who's been indicted, who's under charges for capital murder, who was already given a consideration that most other murderers didn't get. While he awaits trial, he's allowed to not just go home, but to make money for his family, to see his family every day. And not only is he a murderer, he cost this city hundreds of millions of dollars in litigation. Not just the awards to the family, but the ongoing trial that the city's citizens, we have to pay for this fascist. And he still might walk. This hasn't been settled yet. But he's already shown that he's a habitual lawbreaker. He has no respect for himself. He has no respect for life. He has no respect for the authority of the court, that he was a law enforcement officer for the damn court. And so when he violates yet again, and he gets to walk the streets among us, he could walk up the street. You could be walking past Jason Van Dyke right this moment. I don't even know if they have an ankle bracelet on him, one of the monitoring bracelets, but they're supposed to. For capital bail, they're supposed to monitor him, but I wouldn't be surprised. But when they rearrest him for a blatant violation, he gets out on a $200 bail. $200. Hell, I could get out on that. That ain't no kind of money. It's another slap in the face. And it shows you how they gonna play this. It shows you how they gonna play this. But that's just an update. He's going to trial. I don't even know if I should talk about the trial because it's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be a cartoon, and every shiny Negro, every shiny black activist, poverty pimp Negro in the city of Chicago is trying to capitalize off this. Everywhere I turn, there's a new march. No new ideas. There's new marches. There's new protests. No new ideas. No new agendas. Nothing new, just this hamster wheel politics. We just keep running faster, and the faster the hamster wheel spins, we think we getting somewhere. Then when the wheel stops and we step off, we in the same place we started. I might have to call names. I say good riddance. I didn't let me celebrate Ron very long before telling me what I already knew. And he's going to be replaced by another scumbag, perhaps. Right now, I'm looking at Mayor Troy LaRaviere. That's who I'm looking toward. They saying the most powerful Democrat in the state of Illinois, the second most powerful. The most powerful Democrats in Illinois start with, which means the most powerful politician altogether, because this is a one-party county and really a one-party state. And I can say that with all confidence, even though we currently have a Republican governor. Something that I think will be corrected in November. We will have another Democratic governor, and it will go back to being the one-party machine state that it always was, since I've been here at least. But the most powerful politicians in Illinois is number one, Mike Madigan. Number two, a black woman, Winkle. And number three, it was Ron. So there's a vacuum. There's a void. Because the number three man is gone. He had a lot of Obama stink on him too. And the people Obama are endorsing aren't doing too well. And people are like, they don't want Obama to endorse them. They don't want any Obama stink. And they're like, yo, we see Obama's not blameless in the current political conditions that we're in. But anyway, Rahm is out. But the machine that put Rahm in place is still very comfortable, very secure. And they got their hand-picked politician. They're saying the hand-picked politician has exited, and they're going to hand-pick another politician. We're going to see just how powerful the machine is. So that's Chicago politics. And like I said, this Laquan McDonald trial, this Jason Van Dyke trial, and this mayoral race, I don't know if I'm even, because it's all a circus at this point. Meek Mill gave 6,000 backpacks of supplies to Philly students, and I'm still getting hate for having the gall to criticize LeBron James School. I called the N-word with the ER at the end by a white guy because I had the nerve to criticize Common. But all that aside, let's talk about this Nike thing. I don't know. I was still having a little issue this morning. The parking, it's just nothing worked my way this meeting. But I stand strong in a Babylon. You know, capitalization of castration. I guess I could live with that title. The capitalization of castration. What does that mean? That means capitalize off of something means to take advantage of it. In the economic context, capitalization means to make money off of. And castration means to remove one's manhood. It means to cut off one's testicles and or to cut off one's testicles and penis. And to render someone incapable of reproduction, incapable of production. Now, you have various forms of castration. You have physical castration. You have psychological castration in the context that if you take a man's heart, if you take away a man's drive, you could say you have psychologically castrated him. Now, we live in a patriarchal society, in a male-oriented, male-dominated society. Many of our philosophies and dogmas and ideas are patriarchal. The fundamental ideas about creation, that God is a man, God created man first to have, not even, he created Adam from the soil. So Adam is of the earth and the earth is of Adam. Adam is connected to the earth. Adam is one with creation, whereas Eve is just a byproduct of Adam. He had to extract it. And this isn't just Christians, but this is all the major, this is Christian, Jewish, and Islamic delusion that I'm talking about here. And so Eve being a byproduct who is here as a help me, basically the woman's role is to reproduce men. And when she has another woman, her purpose is to reproduce men. So to the very concept of eternity and creation, very patriarchal, very male-oriented, very male-dominant. Women are breeding sows. They're here to serve us, just like all of the man is to have dominion, head of household, all that stuff, right? So you take black men and you put them in a patriarchal system, but you give them no power. When the very essence of power is manhood, and the very essence of manhood. And so therefore was castrated. You give the black man all of the roles and obligations of manhood, but none of the resources or power to fulfill those roles. Aim him for it. So black men in the West has been economically castrated, culturally castrated, psychologically castrated, and even spiritually castrated. And many of us, especially in the Jim Crow era, were physically castrated. Many black men now are chemically castrated because they do not have the proper diet, exercise, and environmental supports to maintain their physical and physiological homeostasis and health. So castration has been a part of the black man's experiences in the New World. And I'm talking about the United States in particular. But colonization did the same thing to our brothers and sisters in Africa. And the plantation systems in the Caribbean, Central America, and South America, same deal. So this is a universal experience for black men. Whether the black man is a descendant of slave or a black immigrant from the Caribbean, Africa, or Latin America. There might be some tweaking to this analysis depending on where the black man is from and what particular manifestation of African culture he was born into. So the black man has been castrated. Castration has been a part of the black man's reality. Black men walking off of the plantations in 1868, hell, we were more decades to really get off the plantation, to really, after the Emancipation Proclamation, after the ratification of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment that gave full citizenship rights to the African. We had a brief window of Reconstruction, under a decade really, before they put us back on the plantation. But the black man walked off the plantation, more or less, without any type of agenda, We's free. We've been fighting for 250 years, give or take, to get off the plantation. And because we were not allowed to read, we were not allowed to write, we were not allowed to research, we were not allowed to plan or organize. Even a gathering of more than 2 black people had to have a white person present. And even if a white person wasn't present, it was always some house Negro, Uncle Tom bootlicking, backstabbing, new Negro there to act as the white man's representative. So our basic goal was to say, I want off the plantation. I want to end to forced labor. I want to end to rape, mutilation, murder, kidnapping, and all of the other atrocities. What we going to do after that? I don't know what we're going to do after that, but I mean, the house is on fire. So I can't plan our summer vacation while I'm standing in the middle of a burning house. So we walked off the plantation. That's not universal. There were some black people that had plans. Let's go back to Africa. Let's get the hell away from these white people. But that was gutted. They cut every time we said, they say, nigger, go back to Africa. We say, fine. Hey, whoa there. I'm just talking. Relax. Slow your roll. So whether it was the African recolonization movement from the 1800s all the way to the 1900s to Garvey back to Africa movement. At every turn, they thwarted our one good plan that we had. Let's all go back to Africa. And so, after coming off the plantation, the black man, the best thing, they was like, so what you gonna do now, boy? So we decided, well, let's look at white people. Look at the God they worship. Look at the jobs they do. Let's just adopt the white man's agenda. Let's organize our homes like the white man organized our home. Let's embrace his priorities, his national priorities, his educational priorities. Let's adopt the white man's methodology. And let's prove to the white man that we can be his brother, that we have no hard feelings after generations of chattel and slavery and unrelenting atrocities. Let's get elected to public office and be good governors of our local territories. Let's bring benefits and resources. Let's demonstrate our brilliance. Let's go to Harvard. Let's go to Yale. Let's go into these academic institutions and contribute to the European canon of thought. Let's set up the Tuskegee Institute to show that we are still willing to do hard work after hundreds of years of unpaid labor. We're still willing to be diligent hard workers. We still want to be industrious. Let's go in the churches, and when you kick us out of the church, we're going to create the African Methodist Episcopal. We're going to create our own black versions of the white church to show that we can be pious and that we can love the God. And the black man said, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to tell my wife, I am the king of this castle. I am the head of this household. You will bow to me. After bowing to the white man, now you got to bow to me. I'm going to bring home the bacon, and you're going to have these children, and the children are my property. You are my woman. This is my land. And we said, all we could do, let's mimic white men, because we really don't have any other options. We don't know anything else. They won't let us go back to Africa. They sure as hell wasn't letting Africans come from the continent to tell us, hell, how do we do this before the white man? How do we organize our family? How do we relate to capital and resources? How do we construct society? How do we engage and build in the architecture? How do we relate to the ecosystems and the environment? How do we adapt? What are our philosophies in academic? Now, we got that now. We don't take advantage of it, but at least now we at least got the option to look into that now. So the black man became a mimic of the white man. And the man, and a core motivation in mimicking the white man is demonstrating our worthiness to the white man. We wanted to demonstrate that we were worthy to be citizens of America, even though America had never demonstrated it was worthy to have us as citizens. It didn't deserve us. We didn't owe America nothing but an ass whooping. Couldn't say that. Sorry. And so after we did all of this, the black man and the black women, we increased our literacy rate. We went from over 90% illiteracy rate to having a higher literacy rate than the average white person in the South. We were the model minority. We were lawful. And if a black person did something wrong, other black people, you better hope the white man catch you before the black folks catch you, because black folks like, you ain't gonna be out here showing us. There were articles, the first black newspapers printed in America would have detailed instructions telling black people how you are to dress, how you are to conduct yourself in public, how to carry yourself as a dignified man or woman. Go look it up. Even the mighty Chicago Defender telling black folks how to act right, how to dress right, how to talk right, where they should be, where do respectable black women go, and where do respectable black women got no business being. And all in all, doing all of this, it was still, get down, nigger. It was still, we were still castrated. We were still treated as subhumans. Black men went over in world, went over and fought the Huns. We went over there and preserved the European empire for another generation in World War I, and black men came over in boots and shiny black medals that they won for valor. And they came back home to be lynched. In the Red Summer of 1919, we fought for them. And it wasn't just World War. We rushed Gala to the halls of Montezuma, to the Sea of Galilee. We went all over the world fighting for the empire. Even though the white man wrote down on paper that the black man did not have the physical coordination or psychological bravery to engage in warfare. Signs of racism. So even though we had strives, and then when a black man was like, damn it, I came off the plantation illiterate and naked. I worked hard. After working all my life for nothing, I kept working for crumbs. And I got me a nice suit. I learned to speak the white man's English. I learned to read the white man's word. I started worshiping the white man's God. I did everything he told me to do. And he still got this rope on my neck. So the black man's like, I'm going to get me some grain whiskey, go sit under this tree and say the hell with it. And then they came and said, you lazy nigger. So this is what the black man dealt with for generations. I can't even talk about what sisters dealt with. If you want to know what sisters dealt with, take all of that and then heap another 10 pounds of gender oppression on top of that. But that's not who we're talking about right now. But I ain't saying to the exclusion that black women didn't have oppression. I ain't saying it was any better for our sisters. I'm just saying, as a black man who has gone through this, whose father has gone through this, my father's father, and my father's grandfather's father's father. And what it means to live in a patriarchal society. And to be motivated to be the patriarch. And then not only be denied an opportunity to be the patriarch, you still get demonized as the patriarch, even though you don't have no patriarchal power or male privilege. You still carry the blame and the blight of male privilege. It's a mess. It is a damn mess. A hot ghetto mess, right? So that's the castration of the black man, the frustration of the black man, the plight of the black man. As Bobby E. Wright said, that Fred Hampton would always say, why does history demand so much of us? Why does history ask so much of the black man? And so that's the castration part of it. There's so much more to say. I'm not doing this credit. But let me just repeat this. As Dale Jones said, there was a time when a black man would get a knock at the door, and the white man would say, send your wife out. I feel frisky. The black man would get a knock at the door, send your daughter out. I'll break her in. There was a time a black man could get a knock at the door, send your son out, your young son. I'm feeling freaky. And there was nothing the black man could do. Even though the black man was told, you're the defender, you're the protector, you're the provider. God gave you dominion over the earth. And we could either say, well, we're not obligated to defend, or we're unable. But what many black men eventually did was say, well, yeah, I know I'm supposed to be the protector, but these black women ain't worthy of my protection. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to dress. They don't know how to talk. So instead of admitting the fact that we don't have the capacity to protect our people, and then acknowledging that loss, that castration, and then working amongst ourselves, within ourselves, to develop that capacity that we wanted so bad, we just deemed our people unworthy. Niggas ain't shit. Niggas, and you can't help black people. Oh, y'all don't need y'all. Get a job. So we gave ourselves an out. We gave ourselves a trapdoor to escape this responsibility. Castration. And then I say capitalizing off the castration. There came a time where white men understood this longing of black men to want to be men. They not want to be men in the African tradition. To not be men even in the humanitarian condition. But they wanted us to be men in the European tradition, in the Western tradition, the dominator, the provider, the protector, the man who was made in the form of God to have dominion over the earth. They understood we wanted that. That's all we knew. That's all we saw. That's all we understood for generations. And they were like, we ain't about to give that. But we can make a lot of money giving them the illusion. Giving them the illusion of being men. Giving them symbols of manhood. Giving them superficial acts while denying. And that's where capitalizing castration comes in. And Nike Incorporated is one of the masters. They're not the only one. But that is absolute evidence of the ability to capitalize off of the black man's feelings of inadequacy. Giving the black man something. I'm walking down these streets that I don't own. I'm walking down these streets that are dirty. I'm walking down these streets that are exploited. By every corner of these streets I'm walking down has Arabs, Jews, Asians owning businesses and treating my people with utter contempt. They look at you hostile. They have hostile feelings. They accost the women when they come in. They look at our children like they are the scum of the earth and with contempt that they're going to try to steal something out of the store. I walk down these streets where these cops treat my community like a safari and they're hunters. But damn it, look at these clean ass sneakers I got. These sneakers cost $250. And if you look at me and you look at these sneakers, you know I'm the kind of person who has enough disposable income that I can spend them on some crispy sneakers. That is a status symbol. Now, more than a status symbol, that is my identity. I will kill if you step on these shoes. I will kill to procure these shoes. I will kill another black man and take those shoes. Ain't got nothing to do with the damn shoes. It ain't the shoes. You can replace the shoes with a gold chain. You can replace the gold chain with gazelle glasses. More black men have died for Nike sneakers than have died fighting for the liberation of African people at this point. At least since the 1980s. 70s even. Maybe that wasn't the case in the 60s. But Nike understood something. Philip Knight, the CEO, the billionaire CEO of Nike, used to sell sneakers out of the trunk of his car. And then he started selling sneakers out of the trunk of his car, and then he opened a little shop somewhere in Berkeley, California. He wasn't even making the sneakers. He was selling Japanese running shoes. And he was getting by. He wasn't doing bad, but he wasn't no baller. He wasn't no private jets. Wasn't no corporate jets. Wasn't no Super Bowl sponsorship. But then he ran into this ball chaser named Michael Jordan. And you look at Nike stock prices, it is a direct line from signing Michael Jordan to the stratosphere. Michael Jordan don't own Nike. Philip Knight's children will inherit that. And they found out that black men will put up good money for symbols of affluence, symbols of authority, symbols of status. They will sacrifice their lives to secure a symbol of status as opposed to actually elevating their status. That is the product of generations of psychological, emotional, economic, cultural castration. I ain't saying we the only people that squander money. I'm not saying black people only this or that. I'm speaking about our unique history. Our behaviors are not unique. But the conditions and the history that led to these behaviors are unique to us. But you could go to Ireland, you could go to Yugoslavia, finding white men, the whitest of white men, the Caucasus regions, and find a lot of similar behaviors and complexes. But I'm not saying we the only people. I know, I understand. So a lot of these behaviors are universal. There are some behaviors that are unique to African people. And there are some behaviors that are unique to Western people. But many of these concepts are not unique to either of us. You put us in the same damn conditions, you're going to get the same damn outcomes. For better or for worse. So what did Nike decide to do? Nike understood if we charge more for our shoes, we can sell more than if we charge less. Nike costs, I researched it, I looked it up. It can cost between 83 cents to $1.15 to produce a Nike shoe. That's from the raw materials, the labor cost, transportation, advertising, distribution. And if it's a really big launch, you might get $3 to $4 per shoe in terms of investment. And they sell those shoes for $100, $200, $300. There are now vintage Nikes going for thousands of dollars, and limited edition Nikes for the sneakerheads. There's whole websites. There's a whole sneaker pimp culture that black men have. And they knew not only do we sell these as status symbols, we got to put these shoes on the big boys, the ball chasers, the big strong bucks. And we put these big sweaty black men, and even when they go take pictures of these black men, they manipulate the lights on the camera, and they're not even sweating, but they spray them with water to show how powerful and to highlight the texture of their muscles, the fibers of their muscles. And you go look at Nike ads, and they show these hulking, powerful black men. You know, and even though LeBron James is married to his high school sweetheart, I mean, if it wasn't for basketball, he'd be the biggest nerd. He played video games, ate Mike and Ike's, and married his high school sweetheart. He was even out there balling like that, in terms of balling in the streets versus balling on the court. He'd be a nerd, if not for basketball and being 600 feet tall. The only thing other than that, you know, you'd be giving him wedgies, because he was kind of a nerdy dude. But when you look at him in the media, they show him as this monster. Go Google LeBron James Vogue. And they got him on there as a brute with a white one on his arm. Looking like King Kong. And they show these black men. That was that one guy, he was a UNLV rebel, and then he went to play for Charlotte. I'm sorry, I don't like talking about sports because I don't know the details of sports, but I know the politics of sports. I don't care nothing, but I care a lot about the cultural and political and economic implications of sports on my community. But I ain't about to watch a ball chase. But what was that dude? He was back in the 90s. He was UNLV rebel, then he went to play for the Charlotte Hornets. And they would always show him screaming and flexing. Ah! Ah! Every time I saw the dude, I never watched him play in the UNLV or for the Charlotte Hornets. I never watched dude. But that's all I know. That's all I remember of him. And he sold a lot of shoes for Nikes. And so Nike has created this image of the powerful, oversexed, balling out, wealthy athlete. And black men was like, I want to be perceived that way. I don't give a damn if I'm on my mama's basement, sleeping on my mama's couch. I want to perceive. I can live vicariously through LeBron Johnson. Thank you. I knew the internet was going to come through. Thank you, now. Larry Johnson. This hulking, monstrous black figure. And the Nike understands even when, remember, because I had a pair of Kobe Bryant Nikes. Those were really those ID preens. I had a pair of Kobe Bryant. Because this is when I used to play basketball like 4 or 5 times a day. You know, that was my exercise of choice to stay in shape. And I even played intramural ball. So I went and invested in a good pair of quality shoes. And I had decided I wasn't going to wear no Nikes. I was boycotting Nikes in the 90s. And it was easy to do because I couldn't afford them. So, I could add a little righteousness to my poverty. And Kobe Bryant was signed with Nike. And I thought, good, I'm glad he didn't sign. I mean, he signed with Adidas. I'm glad he didn't sign. Like when, what's that dude's name? Steph Curry. Said they disrespected him at Nike. I'm like, good, I'm sick of Nike swallowing these dudes up. Grandma Larry Johnson, right. They put him in a dress. They put him in a dress and still had him being a honky monster. Duncan Grant. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, yeah. Kobe Bryant was falsely accused of raping this woman. And when they did the swab of it, the rape kit, they found like semen from like 4 or 5 different men inside this woman. And they were like, well, there's semen from 4 different specimens. Which one of them raped you? She's like, well, Kobe Bryant raped me. Anyway, push come to shove. Long story short, Adidas was like, well, we're going to drop you. We can't have an accused rapist on our roster. It's bad for business. But Nike understood. Oh, and they immediately assigned Kobe. And black people are like, they stood by Kobe. They don't give a damn about Kobe. They don't give a hot damn about Kobe. Any more than they give a damn about Kaepernick, police brutality, and the black community. They understood. Kobe, we can sell some shoes. We slap Kobe's name on some shoes and slap his face on some posters. We're going to make some money. Even though he hasn't even, before he was even exonerated of the rape charges. Because they understood how the black male ego, the damaged, fragile, fractured, dysfunctional ego of the black man works. While we stand by Cosby. Even though Cosby, not only is he a serial rapist, he was dumping on the black community, black men and women as much. But if a black man that has the illusion of having what the white man has can do no wrong. He can do no wrong. Jay-Z ran around the country for years, pimping our women, selling drugs to our children, and shooting our brothers, or giving the illusion of it. And riding around from a Lex Bubble to a Maybach Benz. Made big money. And the one time I saw a relentless amount of criticism leveled against Jay-Z, it wasn't for his misogyny and sexism and history of brutality against women. It wasn't for promoting drug culture that fed directly into, that served as the propaganda Pied Piper for the mass incarceration industrial complex. It wasn't for promoting drug culture and degenerate pimp culture. And you have people run around glorifying pimping when a cornerstone of the pimping industry is sex trafficking of women and underage girls and young boys. Basically doing the work of Goebbels. Goebbels, the German Nazis had to create an anti-Jewish propaganda. I would have think the Germans, if they were smart as the Americans, they would have outsourced the production of anti-Jewish propaganda to Jewish artists, like they do here. But the first time I saw them go in on Jay-Z, one time, Jay-Z was criticized for wearing flip-flops. Jay-Z was seen out spending some leisure time with his wife in flip-flops. And people are like, yo, what kind of gangster are you? You ain't real. I'm like, that's where we draw the line. That's where we want to hold the homie to account. And then after he came out with that album with his wife, he had photos of him and his wife in intimate settings, like very polished, planned photos. And he's holding his wife in loving ways. And he's in his wife with it in an art gallery. And that's when we go in on, oh, Jay-Z, how you taking wife showing affection to the woman you've been with for over a decade now? You got 3 kids with this woman. That's when we get mad. When black men, go look it up. Because even saying this stuff out my own mouth, it flabbergasts myself. I'm flabbergasting my damn self. But a black man, a degenerate black man, who's able to say it's hard not to kill niggas, it's like a full-time job not to kill niggas, and stand across from the first black president as a kingmaker, as a man of distinction. And the black community's like, go Jay-Z, he got that money. He's worth $900 million, over $1 billion if you add up him and his wife together. And the first time we get mad at him is he shows a level of affection. He's shown to be vulnerable. People are like, look, Beyonce's making him do that. How dare a black man do anything a woman tells him to do? We still caught in that mess. And I saw conscious brothers doing it. And when I would criticize Jay-Z in the Rockefeller era, in the Big Pimpin' era, in the Blueprint era, in the Reasonable Doubt era, people were like, you a hater. Shut up. You a punk. But now those same people that said, I don't think it's appropriate for a man to be selling 1 million units, glorifying pimping, drug culture, and Black Death. I just don't think that's the wisest move for us now. We are black people under oppression. And white prejudices and white perceptions have real world material consequences for black people. I don't think that's appropriate. Shut up, you a hater. What are you, a punk? But then if I say, oh, look at him putting out a picture for the world of a black man showing affection to a black sucker. Oh, he got caught cheating, and now Beyonce forcing him to do that. You played yourself, Jay-Z. It's something we got to deal with. This dysfunction, this castration, this mimicking of our oppressors, this warped notion of manhood and masculinity. Not only is it killing us, it's making a profit for Nike. You're in a situation. You sit in a barbershop, scan the shoes. I worked at the One Summer Chicago program, which allowed me to mentor black youth here in Chicago over the summer. Because basically they were saying summer was a time where a lot of young people get derailed. And depending on what happens to a young person over the summer will determine whether or not they'll have a successful school year and they'll be able to graduate. So I worked one summer years ago, like 5-6 years ago. And I had one young man who got paid. They paid, and I would mentor them. I would secure employment for them. I would talk to their employers if they had any issues, provide them with transportation. And so the first week of the One Summer program, I gave them 2 venture cards. I said, it's going to be 2 weeks before you get your first check. Here's 2 weeks worth of transportation to get to and from your job. Once you get paid, you need to budget your money so that you can provide your own transportation. This young man was 18, 19 years old. I had over a dozen young people, but this dude, I had a lot of work. He had a lot of issues. He was 18 or 19. He was being sexually exploited by this woman who was in her 40s. She owned a couple of nail salons and was basically using him as a sex toy, but being very disruptive in his life and was causing great strain. He lived at home, strain between him and his mother. He was 18 going on 19 and starting his senior year and still didn't have enough credits to graduate at the end of that year. So I'm trying to get dude back on track. He didn't have a driver's license and he was always driving his girlfriend's car around. I'm like, you can get arrested or killed. Dude. But anyway, so what happens? This young man gets his check. I've been counseling. I talk to this dude daily, trying to help him get a line. He actually dropped out of the program before it was over. But he gets his paycheck. And he goes and he comes to me the Friday they got paid. That Monday he comes to me and said, I need more venture cards. I'm like, why would you need venture cards? I told you those were just a holdover to your first check. You don't get any more free venture cards, which are our Metro cards, the cards we use for public transit, after you get paid, because this is supposed to teach you how to budget your money and plan for transportation, clothing. You should have your lunch budget. He's like, man, I'm completely out of money. I'm like, you got $300. He's like, I lost it all. I said, what did you do with $300 over 2 days? He said, I bought 2 pair of shoes. He bought a pair of Jordans and some other version of Nikes. And he had one of the new pair of shoes on that day. So I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I said, why not just buy 1 pair of Nikes? He's like, I had to get these, and they just had a limited edition. I planned to get the ones, but literally he blew his whole check on Nikes. So I huddled all of my mentees together, and every single one of the males, without exception, had on a pair of Nikes. Every single one of them. I had 6, 7, no, let me not lie. There are a couple of nerdy kids, they didn't have Nikes. But they said their favorite shoe was Nikes. But I say, out of 12 kids, uh, I say 10 had Nikes on. And the other two said Nike's definitely my favorite, most ideal. So what I did, I said, we're going to take a field trip. And I took them to Hyde Park, University of Chicago campus. They have this high-end art gallery flower garden place where a lot of affluent people come. This is not too far from the Obama mansion. It's like 4 or 5 blocks up the street from the Obama mansion. They have this beautiful fine art museum, modern fine art museum with a beautiful flower garden. Very uppity place. I said, we're going to go to this affluent place where white folks with money tend to congregate. And I want y'all to write down to me how many pair of Jordans y'all see these rich white people wearing. And there were young people too. These are college, Ivy League college students. And I was like, I want you to observe what kind of shoes you see. And just list any shoes you recognize. So anyway, we were there for about 3 hours. We got a little something to eat at the cafe. And I had the young people watching. The people come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go. Not one pair of these white young people, affluent young white kids or affluent people, not one pair of Jordans in the bunch. And many of the shoes the kids didn't recognize. And so then I asked him, why don't you think white people wear Jordans? Because they can't afford them? He's like, nah, because they ain't got style. They don't ball like us. And so we started talking about the fashion industry and how white people spend money on, and this wasn't no, so you can invest and make, I wasn't done no capitalism, save your money up type nonsense. But I'm like, white people squander a lot of money. I told him about the 2008 real estate collapse and the various collapses throughout the industry. I told him about how white people, we looked it up, and every kid got a supercomputer in their pocket. And we were looking up the stats, and I'm like, white people ball. They waste a lot of money on a lot of frivolous nonsense that's very expensive, eating gold flakes. So dude was like, wow, white people aren't frugal. I'm like, they aren't frugal, they just value different things. And let's get off of white folks. Let's just say, that's just one part of the lesson. I said, why do you like Nikes? And nobody really had an, they fly. I said, what's fly about them? Just how they designed. And I'm like, well, how is that design that much different? I said, if it was Pro Wings, if Pro Wing came out with an identical design, what about Shaq's? Oh, Shaq's is lame, Shaq's is whack. And one kid said, admitted, Shaq's is lame because they sell them at Payless. So we eventually distilled them down. We're buying status. We want to project status. We want to project wealth. We want to project the power that comes with wealth. It's a validation. It's part of my identity. So I got them, and then we took the shoe off of the kid that bought the brand new, spent his entire check after working his little ass off for 2 weeks, spent his whole check on 2 pair of shoes. We took them off. And I don't remember where his particular shoes were made. One kid had a pair of shoes made in China. And then we talked about China, and we talked about distribution. And I just broke down the whole business model of Nike to these kids. And told them the whole psychology behind. And I talked about how public relations and Edward Bernays and how the shoes are sold. Some kids checked out, but some kids remained engaged. You know, but this is what we have to start doing. We have to start, number one, talking to our children as though they are brilliant. Don't talk down to our kids. And if you're going to level a criticism, you better be able to back that criticism up with evidence, with experience. And whatever you're criticizing them against and you're telling them to go towards, you better be a living embodiment of whatever you say to the young people, or you need to shut the hell up, because kids going to watch and peep that. They're going to peep that. And I told them, hey, and this ain't about saving up your money for something better. This is about elevating your critical thinking. I ain't saying spend money on this instead of Nikes. It don't make any difference. I'm saying be a revolutionary. Be pissed off at the conditions and what brought these Nikes to your doorstep. What motivated you to be willing to spend the money. Be pissed off and tear down the whole system. Don't elevate within it. That was really my ultimate message. That's my ultimate message. Nike and now Apple computers has fully perfected, understanding. Let me tell you something. Nike has psychologists on staff. Nike has surveillance of the black community. Nike, before, they always had Kaepernick on their roster. Kaepernick had signed with Nike years ago, and they were like, well, you know, he's not really on the team that's really performing. He's a second string quarterback. Ain't nothing we can do with him, but we're going to keep him on the books just to keep him out of the hands of the competition. That's what monopolies do. They buy up everything, whether they want to use it or not. They buy up stuff to keep it out of the hands of their competition. You know, Starbucks ran around buying up cappuccino machine manufacturers just to keep them from putting the stuff on the market. Nike is a monopoly. It has a monopolistic control of the black market, and it's not going to give that up. So they tested, they focus group, they understood if the stats, it's the statisticians, the psychologists, the political scientists, and the other researchers on the payroll of Nike had said, listen, you better go honky tonk, you better go all American Eagle with this, go Patriot. Because that's what's trending. That's what's hot in the streets. If we go patriotic, if we go MAGA, make America great again, we will get a 5-point bump in our next quarterly profit and our next earnings statement. They would have went Yankee Doodle Dandy and put out red, white, and blue and some MAGA sneakers. But that's not what the stats said. They were like, listen, white folks ain't gonna blow no money on this either way, left or right, up or down. But if you get with this black thing, if you get with this whole woke, #woke, Kendrick Lamar, it's a way, Colin Kaepernick, this fake superficial wokeness, extending a hand, Black Lives Matter credit card. If you get with this leftist lean, then there's money in them dollar heels. You can get bank. And right now, black folks are right now running out to buy anything with a swoosh on it they can get their hands on. And if they went MAGA, that wouldn't have happened. White folks wouldn't have ran out. White folks were like, of course you went MAGA. It wouldn't have been, there would be no controversy. There's money in controversy. That's what's trending now. But Nike didn't say, well, we're ending our contracts to supply tactical gear for police departments, SWAT teams, and the U.S. military. Because yes, we understand that the police are using Nike gear, Nike sneakers, Nike facial, those face masks in order to repress citizens. So we're going to end our contracts. We're going to stop giving discount for police members. Nike could have took it to another level, but they already getting all this woke cachet. So Kaepernick, next time if you ever make it on the field, take a knee for sweatshops, laborers, child laborers, for environmental disruption. Take a knee for prison labor that Nike exploits. That fragile ego. They're capitalizing off of our castration. And even I, as a conscious black man, as an educated black man, as a black man, a family black man with a family, who's done what I'm supposed to do and be a responsible black man, I still have to check myself. I still have to engage in ongoing self-examination because I know that rot is within me. It's in my father. It's in my grandfathers. It's in my great-grandfathers. That legacy of castration. And I'm saying, am I doing this for the right reasons? Is this the appropriate action to take? Am I acting off of conditioning? Am I responding? Am I being reactionary? Am I being revolutionary? I always ask those questions. I'm always in an ongoing state of self-criticism and self-examination. You're not a revolutionary if you are not. And denying a disease only allows a disease to fester. So black men, we can have these conversations. It's not our fault. We are not to blame. Black men are not to blame for the condition of the world, but we are responsible for correcting it. So I'm not asking you to take fault. I'm asking you to take responsibility for correcting it, for turning it around. And they could only be done through revolution. Kneeling on a ball field and a slick ad campaign won't get you there. I respect Kaepernick for what he did kneeling on the field. I don't respect him taking Nike paycheck. I tell him like King's son told Tupac, you paid already. You paid already. And don't come tell me you're going to, I know my rights, you're going to put that money back into the community. Come on, man. It's time. There comes a time where, especially if you're a certain status, ain't no about putting money back. It's about generating. It ain't about giving us nothing. It's about working with us to get something. It ain't about, I ain't for people who donate to black people. I'm for people who fight with, alongside, and amongst our people. I'm not for that. This is the Bro Diallo Show, Q4 Radio, AM 1680, FM 98.3, Q4.org, TuneIn app, iTunes Radio. You can find all of my shows, my most recent shows, archived at diallokenyatta.com. You can find my entire catalog, almost 200 shows dating back to my first time live on the air with the Bro Diallo Show, where you have full access. You go put $1 on, put $10, $20, $100 on that Patreon to help sustain the Bro Diallo Show Pan-African analysis, Pan-African understanding. I appreciate you, but we have to understand this. I know about the impetus. I know what it's like to need something to celebrate. And I know sometimes things are worthy to celebrate. My son asked me for a pair of Jordan a few, and I've been working. This is the kid that had the blackest upbringing you could get. Blacker than black. He's broke breads with revolutionaries and black scholars all his life. And he was like, Dad, I want a pair of Jordans. I'll be like, I'll be damned. Not while you living here. I can make my own money and buy them. I'm like, you ain't buying no Jordans here. We don't get down like that. This is about a year and a half ago when he first got into high school. Like, you know, I said, you see me with Jordans? You see me wearing Nikes? It ain't because I'm a corny old man, which I am. But we don't get down like that. And as long as I have any level of influence and authority over you, you will not get down like that. But I didn't just say no. I explained to it. I talked about my experience. You know, my first pair of Jordans when I was a kid. If people dying in my neighborhood getting robbed for Jordans. I had guns stuck in my face. I had a Jordan t-shirt back. Well, I didn't really like Jordan, but I liked Spike Lee. You know, this is before he made X, but he had made She's Gotta Have It, School Days, and Do the Right Thing. And I really liked Do the Right Thing because I didn't know no better. I didn't know good movie making from bad movie making. I was a stupid kid. But I'm like, Spike Lee is so freaking cool. And so he was doing this Mars Blackman character. So I went out and bought that shirt where Michael Jordan was holding Spike Lee by the head, like palming him and holding him up. And I don't like Jordan, but I really like Spike Lee. So that's how they get you. They knew some brothers don't really flex with Jordan. Jordan is not down with black folks. He don't give a damn about black folks. He said, F them kids. You know, and he's like, you know, if you, like that one dude with the other shoe, Big Baller Brand. If you can't afford my shoes, you're not a baller. He started that before that dude. So anyway, they got me. And I'm like, I ain't about to buy the shoes, can't buy the shoes. But even when I got me on a little job, and graduated from my little school and got me a little job with my little certificate, I still didn't buy no damn Jordans. And I played basketball. I was an avid basketball player. Like, I'll buy Spaldings. I was wearing Spaldings. I was wearing Asics, Adidas, all these off funny brand. The high Reeboks. I was never a big fan of Reeboks. They always felt like lead socks on my feet. Reeboks I couldn't get with Reebok. They just wasn't for my feet. But Adidas, I didn't even like messing with the top people. I even had a pair of New Balance. I can't believe it or not. I'm out here, funniest looking, getting clowned. Dudes don't even want to pick. I'm 6'3", couldn't get picked up on the street basketball game. The dude was like, can't nobody ball in them shoes. But you know, it's about the principalities. But like I said, I didn't just tell my son no. I gave him the whole rundown of why we don't mess with Nikes. And then I used to wear Converse All-Stars Y'all remember everybody from Bishop Hogan High School, class of '92? Remember y'all used to call me Chuck because I was the only cat. When everybody else was wearing them Jordans, I would be in there with the old school Chuck Taylors in Coach Jackson's gym playing basketball. Looking like I'm in the night. All I needed was some tall socks up to my knees, some little bitty thigh high shorts, and an afro. I'd look like Dr. J in his prime. Didn't play like him, but looked like him. But they messed around and bought Converse. So I got two pair of Converse when Nike bought Converse, and that's been my last two pair of Converse. And the only reason I got two pair of Converse because it was buy one get one free. I'm a clearance rack hack, a frugal swag. But anyway, I told my son no Jordans. If you must have Nikes, you can buy some all, but you ain't getting no Jordans. So now he went out and got some Vans instead. He got a pair of high top Van sneakers instead of Jordans. I mean, you know, what for do, right? Well, we a Nike free house and a Jordan free house. Now I just got to work on getting him off that anime crap. Anyway, oh, shout out to Sekou and Kuma Kenyatta. That's my good son that still listens to me somewhat. He turned 10 years old yesterday. My second and only second son that my wife knows about. He turned 10, and he's all up on Minecraft. So we got him some Minecraft cupcakes, vegan Minecraft cupcakes, and what else we get him? I don't even remember what we got him. But anyway, happy birthday, Sekou and Kuma Kenyatta, and many, 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 many more. I'm glad he really enjoyed his birthday. It wasn't no party or nothing. It was just family. Uh, There's this show he likes called The Good Place. We watched an episode of The Good Place. He ate his cupcakes, and oh, we got him a headset for the games, like he could play. He plays with King Dita's son, Prince Dita. How come King Dita, like, this is my son? It's like, I'm King Dita, this is Charles. So I think he should be Prince Charles. I can't call him Prince Charles. I think that's copyright. We'll call him Prince Dita. I don't think little Charles would like that though. But anyway, so they can play on headsets. And so we got him a headset for his when he plays Minecraft or whatever. So it was a good day yesterday. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And we got some mega pumpkins. I actually bought these seeds for these giant 80, 50, 60 pound pumpkins that grow. So I got this one pumpkin and it's like already like 40 pounds. I got to call her. You're live on the Bro Diallo show. State your name or alias, where you're calling from.
This is Paul from Rochester, New York. First time caller, long time listener.
Oh, appreciate it.
I heard you giving your shoe stories.
Oh, yeah.
I had called it my shoe stories. I've never owned a pair of Jordans.
All right, bro.
But my first pair of Nikes was a hand-me-down. Growing up poor, my sister had a pair of Nikes, the ones with the little strips in the front.
Uh-huh.
And she used to wear them in high school. As soon as she got sick of them, those first Nikes that came out back in the 80s, they were real simple, had a little stripe in front of them. And she wore them. And when she got tired of them, I took them because I grew up to be able to fit her shoes. I was still young.
Oh.
But I'm thinking I'm going to be the baddest thing in school with Nikes. But it's funny though how a lot of the shoes we grew up with growing up as a kids, these kids now wear like Bubbles, Converses. When I was growing up, Converses, you got made fun of in school wearing Converses.
Really?
And I'm also a fruit. I got a pair of Nikes on right now, but I made sure I got them on extra sale at the outlet.
Yeah. I'm a shoe warehouse. But let me ask you this: out of New York, you got some Timbs though, right?
You know what?
My
first pair of Timbs. No, hold on.
You sleep in Timbs. You in New York. I know my guy. Dead ass.
My first pair of Timbs I bought in college, and I bought a red pair of Timbs, which is not my style, but I don't know what was going on with me. I bought my first pair of Timbs in college when I was, and I was probably what? This is like when I first went to college. I would wear Durango boots. I would wear other types of boots, but I wanted to be different. I didn't want to wear what everybody else was wearing. You know, but my first pair of Timbs was I went to school in Buffalo, Buff State, and one of my homegirls like, "Well, we know you got your refund check." And she went and bought you a brand new. And I'm like, "Nah, I got a job. I thought about this my own money. I got a job." But a bright red pair of Timbs. I don't know why I bought them. That's not even my style. That bright color. Actually, I still got them. I think.
Of course, Timbs last forever. You can't live in New York. That's like a passport. You can't live in New York without Timbs.
You have to.
Yeah.
The thing is, when I was going to school, a lot of cats from New York City was up there. I'm thinking, come on, I gotta get it. You know, I'm from Rochester, New York, which is farther 8 hours from New York. I said, but everybody wear Timbs throughout the whole New York State.
Exactly.
I got cousins in South Carolina who was wearing Timbs in the 80-degree weather.
Oh yeah, word. Yo, when I moved to New York in 1992, and I was going to SUNY Downstate. Never even knew what Timbs was. Within 6 months, I had 2 pair of Timbs. And I had to fast. I was eating white rice and hope for dinner and lunch every day for 6 years to pay off them 2 pair of Timbs. But you gotta have Timbs in New York. So I wouldn't even call for a Tim.
In
110-degree weather.
Earlier. I'm sorry.
110-degree weather. Y'all got them Timbs on.
Oh yeah, and think about Timbs. If you get the basic Timbs, and this is how cold it gets up here, your feet will still get cold in Timbs.
Yeah.
They not really.
Because they work boots. Right, they're work boots.
Yeah, they work boots. You got to get like insulated Timbs, and those even got a limit.
And they expensive as hell too.
You know, so you got to get some real winter boots up here if you really want to keep your feet warm.
Right.
But and it's just crazy. Like you just saying how them young men would go out and take that money and just blow it like that, and it got a lot to do with, I would say, racial self-esteem.
Yes.
And not in a way, you know, because people want to feel like, especially if you're coming from a poor community, or you raised up in the projects, you want to feel like you have some worth to somebody. Like, look at me, I'm wearing that popular brand that y'all have on y'all TV, you know, or that popular football player, basketball player is endorsed by, I'm wearing that brand.
Right.
And it's hard to try to convince your children. Like, I got daughters, and try to convince them, like, why are you just crazy about this brand?
Yeah.
Like my daughter, she swears that she cannot wear any jeans. No jeans fit her except for Hollister jeans. Oh, they don't fit right. You know, these jeans on sale, they $25 jeans, and you're not even that big. These little jeans, $25 jeans. Maybe I'm being cheap.
You are, and be proud of that.
Thinking like,
you know, the struggle is, and yeah, you are being cheap. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Don't say maybe. Hell yeah, I'm gonna be cheap. Or but no, call it frugal. That makes it sound better.
Yeah, it sounds better. Yeah, I'm being frugal. So I'm like, it's just funny to hear her say, I can't wear those other jeans, but Hollister jeans, they don't fit right. I'm like, come on. Like, are you? I said, clothes, as long as it's covering you, that's all I care about.
Right,
you know, I'm dead, so that's all I care about. As long as it's covering you up. You know?
Right. See, that's the thing with having sons. He don't. I mean, after his feet, he don't care. You know, he can wear a salami sandwich for clothes. He ain't really into clothes, but he likes his shoes to make a statement with his shoes. And then his feet, he already got bigger feet than me. He's a size 13 and still growing. So you better humble your shoe aspirations. But like everything is political too, so we got to work with him.
Yeah, yeah, and going back to the Kaepernick situation, when Kaepernick first started taking the knee, I would tell everybody, "Oh yeah, he should stand up." What, you? And I'm the pro-black one. I'm the Elijah Muhammad / revolutionary / talk to Paul. He know about black stuff. That's me. I'm like, no, he should stand up. Oh, you saying that? You saying that because you was in the military? Because I was in the Marine Corps. I said, no, I'm not saying that because I was in the military. I said, the reason why I think he should stand up. I said, first of all, what he's taking a knee for? He's taking a knee to say, oh, I want to bring attention to the problem.
Right.
I said, most of the people watch football watch the news, so they know what's going on. They know what's going on. Now, when he took his knee, he lost, what they say, 7-8 million in endorsements. I'm thinking, now, what are we going to... And most people say, well, you say he should stand up to keep his endorsements? I said, no, the only thing you're going to do with that money is probably buy a brand new Ferrari or a house in Malibu. I said, but if he's a real revolutionary like he's saying he is, I already see what's going on with this situation. I told him from the beginning. I think he's a real revolutionary like he say he is. He would have stand up, take that $8 million endorsement money, and basically donate it to something that's going to empower the people. That's because they know what's going on.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem though. With that, there's at this time where you have such a deficit, you need that imagery. You notice before they go to war, right? In the United States, you've been in the Marines, they create the propaganda for war. And that's in whether you're the Nazi Germany, the US military, or you're Che Guevara. So in a time where there's such a deficit in understanding and a deficit in visual revolution and solidarity, the knee is more important than the money. Even though he still donated to money, and that whole revolutions can't really run off of donations. But I support the knee. I actually appreciate the knee, and I think we get more capital, social and political capital out of the knee than we would out of him buying what's that guy? Meek Mill's just passed out 6,000 backpacks. You know, so.
So you saying that you think that the social and political capital is worth more than his donations to different organizations that empower people?
Absolutely.
Like, give me an example of that. Like, how is that social and political capital?
Because with Kaepernick taking the knee, and black people not spending, and the black people boycotting and withdrawing, the masses of black people withdrawing their support and funding of the NFL is worth more to us than one black individual making money from the NFL and redistributing as he sees fit amongst the people. And I know personally some black people. I know this one affluent black man. Well, my wife is friends with his wife, who had Super Bowl tickets, and he shredded them. And having a black man of individual lower level black men who are not in the spotlight, to having that level of understanding and that level of awakening and awaken. Give me 10 awakened black men, and they can accomplish more than one black man with a couple of thousand or a couple of even $1 million can do for us. You know, the consciousness of the people. This is a struggle by, for, and of the people. And we can't really depend on individuals and their benevolence to save us. I don't care if it's LeBron James or Nicki Minaj or Colin Kaepernick. So I think they would do better with these symbolic acts of resistance that cause a mass awakening, as opposed to them seeing on the surface submitting to our oppressors. On the surface they submit to our oppressors and then trying to do something behind the boards. We need public acts of defiance at this stage of the struggle.
And I think, and maybe because that guy who shred his football. Like I don't watch football. I don't watch football. I don't watch sports. I stopped watching sports a long time ago. You know, it wasn't hard for me. We boycott the NFL. Like I don't even watch the game. If I'm watching, I might turn to it. To me, it's boring. It really is. It's boring to me. I'd rather play than watch.
Right.
And then the whole how from the college level, them not playing athletes, and how it's very similar to slave auctions and how these guys are treated. I was upset about how I guess they are employees. In the NBA, they had a big dress code after Allen Iverson came in there wearing baggy jeans and braids. I'm thinking, this man is a millionaire and he's supposed to be free. What? Just how they treat them for me.
Right, but no, what's worse than them imposing the dress code is black men following the dress code. You know, they could impose all they want. The submission is worse than the request. So that's why I'm saying, even if I'm gonna wear my suit and show up, and then I'm gonna buy some turkeys for the hood and Thanksgiving. I think we get more cachet out of a black man saying, "Listen, how about you old white men come out here and chase these balls? And when you're ready to respect me, that's how what's his name? What's that dude? The football guy who now supports Trump. I can't.
The one that looked like an Ewok you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't think.
I can't, man. These dudes.
Colin something. No. What is his name?
No, he's old. He was
old
always saying Jim Brown. They told Jim Brown that they were going to fine him for his misbehavior. and he engages in a lot of misbehavior. So they said, we're gonna. And back then they were finding him like $5 a day. He didn't show up to camp, and every day you don't make it to training camp, even though you're on a championship team, we're gonna fine you $5 a day. And Jim Brown would always be like, I'm a man, and you're gonna respect me as a man. I'm a man, you're gonna respect me as a man. And those acts of defiance, even though he was always a conservative, always beating black women, but his public acts of defiance of the establishment were worth more to the community than him, again, the money he puts in. And I know that's kind of hard to see, especially when you're dealing with people with material lack every day. But again, I think Kaepernick did a better service in open defiance, if nothing else, exposing or forcing the NFL to expose its racism, to expose their hand, if nothing else.
See, and I look at this. Maybe I'm looking at it like, okay, and you brought up Jim Brown. You brought up Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali. That's what, about 50, almost 60 years ago. And it's sad that we as a people are at the point where we still need people in.
Hey, even if it's sad, that don't mean, just because it's sad don't make it not true. Okay, let's be sad about it and then get to work.
Yes, exactly. The work part. Like, it's sad that we still got, it's like, okay, it's like if you sleeping and you got to get woken up and woken up and woken up. You should be past the woken up part. You should be at least on the edge of the bed.
But we're not. So we still have to advocate. We still have to advocate. We still have to. It's still, the work must be done. Yes, it is sad. Now we get back to work.
Yeah.
I'm
like,
that's like somebody says.
And you got to ask yourself, well, what is it? See, my thing is, I think that's a problem. And one thing you got to do, you got to identify the problem. If something, Muhammad Ali, it was beautiful. It was great back in the '60s. A lot of black men were that image of a black man speaking up, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, was something great. Now you got a guy who we call a black president, Barack Obama, who's speaking on podiums. But we still need black men and black women to make statements to say, hey, like, why are we still at the point? Like, for example, the way you think, the way a lot of people think, who are revolutionary. You got so many people who are still begging, like the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I felt like who are y'all talking to right now? Y'all not talking to me. I know my life matter. Who are y'all talking to? Oh, y'all talking to the establishment. Why are you begging the establishment to say my life matters? It's like it takes work, and it is. And the thing is, to me, the big problem within the community is the materialism and also religion. I think religion has a big problem. It's not a revolutionary religion. I don't care religion you practice, but it's not a revolutionary religion. Like my cousin, who's a Christian, he said, "Paul, I know you don't practice Christianity. But I'm a Christian." I said, "I don't care you're a Christian. As long as you're a revolutionary black Christian, that's all I care about." And then in the materialism, okay, if you can be materialistic on something that's more pro-black. I guess I'm just shooting from the hip right now.
Right.
Be materialistic about that. Go buy you a T-shirt from a black store that they print in the back with a black person on it. Buy 5 of those. Don't go out to, that's how I look at it. And it's not just us in America. This is global. This is African people globally are becoming very materialistic. It's crazy.
Right. Well, I'm gonna leave you with that final word. I gotta move on. I got some other segments to play.
Yeah,
but I definitely appreciate you calling in.
I think I'm talking to you at the house. I forgot we on this show.
All right. It's all good, bro.
I'm a constant listener. I appreciate you taking my call.
I appreciate you too, bro. All right. Q4 Radio. All right. Q4 Radio. We're gonna have a short musical break, and then I'm going to share with you some another revolutionary freedom fighter, athlete, scholar, a person that I think is the original OG black celebrity freedom fighter who did it the way it's supposed to be done, that all of our other gifted individuals in the U.S., brothers and sisters, should follow suit, Paul Robeson. But let's hear a little music, and then we'll move on to that. Bro Diallo Show. AM 1680, FM 98.3. Baby Huey and the Babysitters. Hard Times. I'll be back on the air Wednesday. We're gonna be talking about socialism. A lot of people keep asking me about socialism and how it could work, why it doesn't work, and why there's still, after over a century since after the Communist Manifesto, we're still debating about socialism, communism, and all that. So we're going to be talking about what socialism is, what it ain't, and whether or not we should even be debating this issue anymore. Bro Diallo Show. Peace.